who heads up our business productivity practice and runs basically our SharePoint, Yammer, and BI team. So to start off, we are basically just before we start, actually, web guidance. We've already muted you, so if you do have any questions, please do pop them into the IM window. The webcast is being recorded, and we will send out links afterwards, so you can get onto our YouTube channel to view it, and also pass on to your colleagues who you think may find of interest. Okay, so Visual, who are we? Essentially, we are a pure play Microsoft Gold partner. We operate very, very closely with Microsoft, and we only sell Microsoft. We've been going 10 years. It's our 10th birthday recently, and in that time, we have only ever sold Microsoft solutions and solutions optimized for Microsoft technology, which makes us absolutely unique in the marketplace. The key thing here is that we are totally customer centric as well. So we're wholly focused on helping our customers leverage their investment in Microsoft technologies, and also exploiting all the latest and greatest Microsoft technologies to boost productivity, to increase operational efficiency, and to gain competitive advantage. And we do this through services. So essentially, we sell time and people in different quantities, and that's through consulting and also through managed services. And basically, they support all the Microsoft solutions across the entire stack of Microsoft solutions. So it's easier to name the bits of Microsoft we don't do, which is Dynamics AX, Dynamics GP, and Dynamics Nav. So if you need anything to do with Microsoft, or you're trying to do anything with Microsoft, we're the people to go to. And if you ask us a question, expect it to be Microsoft as the answer. And what that does, though, what that means is that we have the capability across such a wide range of technologies that we can then help customers to deploy and adopt new technology at scale, which is quite unusual. So we can help drive large business transformations. So we have certain customers we work with who are in need of making wholesale changes, and we help drive that. In terms of our commitment, we are UK Partner of the Year of 2015, and we've been a finalist for the last couple of years. So it's an achievement we're very, very proud of. We've taken 10 years to get there, and I know the next goal is to become the Global Partner of the Year. So when we go out to see our customers, the messages that we're talking to them about are really that we believe IT is the heart of positive change in their organizations, whether that be public sector or commercial. And we have 3 propositions for business transformation. And essentially, the top one is connected business, and that's really how we help the customer engage with their customers or citizens. And we do this through using our business group practice. And the next one is end user computing, and this is how we help the organization empower the workforce and utilize all the latest business productivity tools. And that can be helping to mobilize the workforce through securely and using the latest Microsoft technologies, whether that be on tablets or phones, etc. And then supporting all of this is a proposition that is designed to help enhance the IT organization, and that's optimized service vision. And that's really how we help the IT organization deliver excellent services back to the business in line with their IT priorities. So if I just jump forward, back to that slide there. The way we deliver this in Visual is through two arms. So 2 distinct arms of the business are through consulting and through services. So the consulting business is split up into 2 legs. So we have our business group consulting practice where our strategic consultants live, where we have enterprise architects, engagement managers, project managers, internal project managers, and they help build the vision and the scope of business transformation. And then they work very, very closely with our technical practices where we have distinct silos. And these practices contain consultants with specialist expertise. So, for example, in business productivity, in Alex's team, that's run as a distinct business in its own right. And he has a team of dedicated SharePoint, Yammer, and BI consultants. In UCM messaging, we have a large team of consultants who have deep expertise with Exchange and with Skype for Business, and obviously unifying those. And then we have a new practice, actually. It's been the merger of systems management and identity access and perimeter, which we call cloud infrastructure. And those guys know everything from the desktop through to the data center through to Azure and everything in between. And we have a complete knowledge of the System Center suite and some additional supporting solutions developed by Microsoft partners. The newest practice we have, which launched this year, is our applications development practice, which is very exciting because they're helping us to leverage bespoke applications using, alongside our business transformation propositions. Okay, and on the other arm, supporting all of this is our services business. It's our managed services offering. So we provide everything from tier 1 to tier 4 support for our customers. In some cases, we provide complete help desk, both in public and private sector. We've got some large contracts there. Obviously, that's a really important part of our business, but it's important for our customers to know that anything that we deploy, we can actually support. And it's especially important with the things that have changed now with the consumption of new technology, where a lot of these solutions are now evergreen. So we have adoption consultancy built into there, known as our maximizer, to make sure that as new technology comes along, our customers are able to exploit that and make use of it. Okay, so I'm just going to flick through. So now it's time to introduce Alex Egar. He's our Business Productivity Practice Manager. Alex, would you like to say hello?
Hi there, thanks for that, Rich. So as Rich said, I run the Business Productivity Practice. So within that practice, we've got a team of consultants, and we deliver projects and support solutions based around Office 365, generally SharePoint, Yammer, and Power BI. As a result of that, quite a few of the projects we do are intranet projects. And what we hope to get from this webcast is really to, well, let me bring the agenda up, is to share some of our experience, our best practice, and our approach around intranets. A lot of it specifically around what can be achieved with SharePoint, to show how some of the challenges and some of the feedback we get around current or traditional intranets and some of the frustrations people have, how they can be addressed by deploying an intranet on SharePoint and following some of the approaches that Rich will take. So we've already been through the introductions. Rich has given a good introduction to Rizal and himself and me. So I thought what we'd do now is go through a slide which talks about just some of the common issues that we see people face with traditional intranets, and then just go through each of those again with a number of slides to talk about how some of those can be addressed. Then we'll drop into a demo. Now that demo will give us an opportunity to show some, but not all, of the things we've discussed in the slides, and we'll actually use Rizal's own intranet to do that. And then briefly at the end, I can just talk about our approach or our follow-on engagement for an intranet project that we can approach with you if you'd like to do so as a follow-on engagement. And then we can do a Q&A at the end as well if anybody has any questions. So, common intranet complaints. So these are the things we see quite often when we're going to talk to customers about their current environment and the things they want to address. So the first one we've got here is all content for all people. So this is the fact that the intranet is not tailored or personalized in any way to a role or to an individual. So people suffer from information overload. They don't feel it's any real help to them, or what they do specifically. So I'm not saying it's, we're not saying it's a complete waste of time or it's useless, but they feel that they're not really getting the key information that's pertinent to them and what they do. A lot of intranets also have very text-heavy pages, so pages and pages of HTML content which people have to plow through, which people don't feel are particularly engaging, and also has somewhat a dated feel to the intranet. It's not what people expect to see when they visit websites these days. They're very media-rich. They're very a lot of white space, a lot of imagery, and there's kind of there's a big difference now between what they see internally and what they're expecting to see when they're on the web. Old and missing content. So a lot of information goes in, but never comes out, and also there's an issue with some relevant and current information also not making its way into the intranet as well. So what you end up with is a proliferation of content within the intranet, and it's very difficult for people to actually find what's relevant because it gets cluttered up with the old and not so relevant information. A poor information architecture and navigation. So basically, a lot of intranets have grown organically. So what was right maybe 5 years ago, something was put in very basic and it's just grown organically. And again, very difficult to find information, very difficult to put context around information because that's not really been planned out and managed on an ongoing basis. A big one all the time we see as well is that search just doesn't work, people say, and it's seldom used. So whilst it maybe does work, people just don't use it because they're not finding the information they expect quickly enough, or it's not easy enough for them to refine the information when they get back in the results. It's always a big one when we speak to people as well. Very seldom do we speak to people about their current intranets and they tell us how fantastic their search is. It just doesn't tend to happen. So I'll go through each of these now and just talk about some of the ways in which we can use the functionality within SharePoint to build an intranet, which helps address these areas. So all content for all people. So in SharePoint, we can define some audiences which are specific to user roles. Now in SharePoint, we can have a user profile for everybody in the organization, and we can specify certain properties about that person within there. Now, based upon those properties, or the values in those properties, we can build these audiences. So we could have an audience, for example, for every department within the business. What we can then do is then target individual pieces of content or certain types of content to those particular roles or those audiences that we've created. Now, we'll normally start with the home page for that. It can get very complicated when you try and target content throughout the whole intranet. So often people want to start just with the home page. So they might want to target specific tools, applications, or maybe news to particular parts of the business to make that home page much more relevant and much more personal to the user. The other option we've got inside SharePoint as well is to allow users to self-subscribe to information and tools. So this is almost like an intranet favorites, or a bookmark functionality, and this can be provided out of the box using the following function within SharePoint. So users can go around SharePoint and they can choose to follow people, documents, and sites, and have those shown in a menu for themselves. You can also do a little bit of extra work on top of SharePoint to allow people to really choose to subscribe to any type of content that you put into SharePoint. It really depends on how far you want to take that. Now, when people have been able to do that self-subscription to the content, you can then provide that to people in a number of ways. And two of the ways we commonly see that happening is either in the form of some sort of flyout menu. So people at any point can click a button, they'll get a flyout menu, and they can see all of their quick links or their bookmarks for the intranet. And the other option is perhaps to have a section of every single page which is consistent across the intranet, which shows again that favorite content that the person has chosen to follow. The other thing to say there as well is that the self-subscription, you can actually have a combination there whereby for certain roles you publish a set of information that everybody should see based on their role, and you allow them to supplement that with anything else they feel they need to see as well. So there are different degrees or different levels of personalization we can accommodate there. Text-heavy pages. So this isn't really functionality, but this is really just more of a best practice, and that's to keep page content relevant and really avoid waffle. So simply just cut down on the amount of text that's on the pages. So the way we can do that is for content editors, when they're adding content to the pages, we can use templates to make it very specific to what they can add to a page. So rather than giving them a box which allows them to add however much content they want in whatever format they want, we can put very limited controls on the page. They just type the information in, and when they publish it, it's presented to the user. So we can enforce, to a degree, that limitation on content. The other thing we can do is provide much more of an interactive experience for users. So rather than just coming to the intranet and reading all these pages of content, like I said before, which often isn't very engaging for them, we can supplement that text with things like conversation feeds, allow them to make comments to the information that's on a page, to like or rate information or content that's on a page, to provide a much more interactive user experience. Again, all these things are available out of the box with SharePoint functionality, and I think they can really make a huge difference when you incorporate this into an intranet to make it a much more engaging experience for the users. The other thing we can do, again, just by leveraging the functionality that's available in SharePoint, is we can actually provide a very nice, rich set of content around our people and the activities that they undertake within the organization, as well as standard intranet content. So I mentioned before about having SharePoint user profiles to create these audiences. Well, if you do create these SharePoint user profiles, they're presented as nicely formatted HTML pages in SharePoint, and we can point people to those as well. Basically, we're publishing information about what the business does and how it does it through the intranet, but also about the people within the business as well. And I'll be able to demonstrate this to you as we do the demonstration later on. Include white space and rich media. So don't feel you have to cram every single centimetre or square centimetre of that page with content. You know, sometimes less is more, and you'll all be familiar with this from your experience of using sort of modern web pages. So we can enforce this through our intranet branding. So when we provide somebody with a page to put content on, we will just give them some limited areas where they can add content. And again, like I said before, we can limit what content goes in that as well. We can use SharePoint and Office 365 video streaming to upload videos and then embed them on pages to provide a true video streaming experience, which is very simple, and easy to do. Again, providing a much more modern and updated feel to the intranet. And the last point in there, image renditions for content editors. One of the nice features of SharePoint 2013 is that when you add images to the intranet, you could have a single person or a number of people who are responsible for managing those images. They can create what are called image renditions, and that creates a number of different sized thumbnail images based on the original image, which users can then go and pick the right one, which is relevant to the area that they're using. Now that stops people doing their own versions of images, their own crops, so you don't end up with some rectangular, some circular, whatever it may be. You provided users with a bank of images of different sizes which they can simply go and pick from. So a really nice feature that's just available out of the box in SharePoint. Old and missing content. So content lifecycle is a big issue for a lot of intranets. So a couple of things we can do to manage the removal of old content really is to make sure we set up review dates on all pages or all types of content, so including documents. Now that might feed a dashboard or some sort of workflow, so when the review date gets met, a workflow might kick in to prompt the user to, well, I guess approve whether the content should be deleted or to say whether that content should remain and is still relevant. Again, just standard functionality we can set up within the SharePoint environment. The other option would be to have some sort of dashboard which aggregates together content which is due to expire and lets the intranet administrator perhaps decide what's relevant and what's not. Give a nice dashboard view. We have content scheduling in SharePoint as well. So if you actually know how long this piece of content is going to be relevant for, why not state that when you actually put it up there? So, I'll put it in now, but I only want to show it from next Friday to the Friday after. After that, take it away because it's no longer relevant. Suddenly, you've got, you've got much less of that old, outdated content cluttering up the environment. Now, in terms of taking out the old stuff, we can address that, like we just said, but we also need to make it simpler for new content to go in. And really that's the utopia you want to get to. Get the old stuff out and make it easy to get the new stuff in. So in order to make it easier to get the new stuff in, we can use templates for all of our pages. Now that removes any formatting considerations for the content editors. So all we're asking our content editors to do is add the text and the content. So add the content to the pages. Don't worry about what it looks like. You don't have to worry about that at all. We take care of that when you publish the page. Use SharePoint lists for content updates. Again, I'll be able to show you this when we do our demonstration. So we can have very basic lists or forms, if you like, for people to put information in to update the intranet. And just like I said with the page templates, what happens is they just simply add content to the boxes on the form, and then when it's published, all the magic happens in terms of getting it all formatted and presented within Intranet. It takes a huge amount of time and effort away from the content editor, and all they have to do is focus on that content. The third bullet point there about publishing directly from SharePoint team sites is that if you do deploy a SharePoint intranet alongside SharePoint team sites, which you're using for maybe collaboration or within your departments, it's very easy to publish finished documents directly to the intranet from that environment. So your team sites almost can become authoring sites for your key corporate documentation which you want to share through the intranet. Again, I'll be able to show you that. It's simply just a couple of clicks and you can have that content sent up to the intranet. And let the tools and the users do the work for you. So this is specific to the first bullet point is specific to Office 365. So there's a feature in Office 365 called Delve, which actually feeds the user with all the content that the underlying algorithms in Office 365 think are relevant to them. So when they go to Delve, they have a whole panel of suggested content. Now, there's been quite a few internet projects where the customer actually is asking us to try and create that previously, but now we can just provide that functionality at the box with Delve if you're using Office 365. It's a fantastic feature. The other option you've got there is using SharePoint or Yammer feeds to embed conversations or conversation feeds within your intranet. Now that means that you're having to create less pages of content, so you might supplement some types of news with just a simple conversation feed, but also the users themselves, as they can contribute to it, they start to add the content. You would want some sort of controls around that, I understand that, some sort of governance around it, so you can have a view of what's been added, but the users of the internet themselves start to add the content and take care of that for you. So it just means you've got a much more dynamic, much more up to date, and much less cluttered environment if you can take care of these things. Poor navigation. So for us, this is absolutely key. So if you're designing a new intranet, you need to get the information architecture considered and designed up front. It is the first thing you'll want to do. So that's understanding what's going to go into the intranet and how will you actually categorize this content that's going to go in there. So you don't have to understand all the individual pieces that are going to go in, but you need to understand all the types and all the main categories of content that you're going to add in here. You need to understand who needs to see what and where you actually want to show it. So you start to build out your actual internet structure at this point. And you also need to understand what the overall life cycle for content will be. Again, that's coming back to making sure that you're getting rid of the old content and making sure that the active content is managed correctly. Make use of modern navigation techniques. So again, you'll all have seen mega menus, whether you're aware of it or not, when you've been using websites. A lot of websites use them now, and a mega menu simply lets you pretty much see the whole site structure through the global navigation. So you'll click on one heading in the global navigation, and you'll get a drop down which shows you lots of subheadings as well. So you actually achieve sort of 3 levels of navigation within a single view. A lot of the big websites use mega menus now, and it's something it's quite easy to configure and set up within SharePoint. It takes a little bit of customization because it's not really an out of the box functionality, but it doesn't require any custom coding as such. The other option there is jumbo footers. So this is something else you see quite a lot of, which is a big chunky footer at the bottom of every page, which contains a consistent set of links to key content or key functionality. Again, you've probably seen that quite a lot in websites, but something we're seeing more and more again of in intranets. If you're an Office 365 user, then another nice feature is to actually incorporate the out-of-the-box Office 365 navigation, because whilst you've got your intranet hosted in Office 365, your users will probably want to be able to jump backwards and forward to the other components of Office 365. So if you can embed that into the intranet, it just makes it much more of a seamless experience. And that's what we've done in our environment, and you'll be able to see that when we go through the demonstration. Search doesn't work. So first and foremost, absolutely key is don't just turn it on. Include this in the design. So if you're going to deploy a SharePoint intranet, yes, search will work if you don't do anything with it really and just turn it on. It does work to a degree, but it doesn't take a lot of effort to actually make it far more effective and far more efficient for the end user. It doesn't have to take a huge part of your intranet project, but the benefits are massive. So you can do a lot of deep technical configuration. SharePoint now includes the full FAST. So Microsoft bought a company called FAST a number of years ago, a huge enterprise leading search provider. Microsoft bought that company. It used to be an add-on for SharePoint. It's now incorporated fully within SharePoint, and the configuration options are almost endless. I mean, it's a real beast of a product in its own right. They don't just now to start with. Sorry, I was going to say to start with. You don't have to look at that deep technical configuration. There are some quick wins which are quite simple and quite easy to do. So some of the ones we'll most often be looking at when we're doing an intranet design are things like promoted results. So you choose when somebody searches for a term, what you think should come right at the top of the list in the search results, with a tick box beside it just to kind of highlight it and make it obvious to the user. Very straightforward, very easy. But it does require some ongoing administration because you have to tell it what you think the top result should be. Result blocks. So result blocks allow you to promote or highlight certain categories of results at the top of the sets that come back. So it might be if somebody searches for a certain term, you want to show the first 5 policies, for example, which match that term, and they would come up in a separate block at the top of the search results with all the other results beneath them. So it's a bit like a promoted result, but you see more than it shows a chunk of results, and in its SharePoint it's constantly managing that in the background as well. Make use of query suggestions. So if I type in a term which isn't quite correct, then I can have SharePoint giving that sort of did you mean, which a lot of the search providers online do now. So if I misspell it, it will tell me the alternative, or I can actually say if somebody searches for procedure, I can say, well, did you mean policy? Because actually that's a term we use within the organization. So it's just helping the user, guiding the user to use the right terms to get a much more effective result set back. The other thing we have in SharePoint search are something called refiners. So when I get back a list of results, I can then choose based on a list of options down the left-hand side how I want to filter out those results and well, as the name suggests, refine them. So I'll show you that. I'll be able to demonstrate that. But if you've used Amazon before, it's exactly like that. I do a search for a product and then I get a whole list of options down the side to filter down those results to find the actual item that I'm after. So we'll go into the demonstration now. A lot of the demo will focus on SharePoint functionality. Most of the demo will focus on SharePoint functionality. As I mentioned, there are 2 options for SharePoint. There is an on-premise option, where you actually have your own SharePoint environment, which is hosted and managed internally. Or the other option is to use SharePoint Online, which is part of Office 365. That's Microsoft's cloud-based solution, and it does include SharePoint and other products. So in this demo, because Rizal use Office 365, our intranet is based primarily on SharePoint Online, but it does include things like Yammer and Delve, so there will be some non-SharePoint aspects to this, and I'll call them out as we're going through where it's relevant. And if anything has been done in SharePoint Online, which may not be possible in SharePoint on-premise, again, I'll try and highlight that because I'm aware that we do it. We're in a time now where there is quite a mix of people between the two different options, on-premise or Office 365. So I'm just going to now share my desktop. And then we'll be able to if you could just if a couple of people could just drop a quick message in the IO window, that'd be great. Just let me know that you can actually see the desktop now. You should just see the Skype for Business client. Okay. Good stuff. So I'm going to start with our visual intranet. So this is our homepage. I mean, I'll come back to this to the homepage as we're going through, but we've got quite a basic intranet. Again, this isn't so much about how to design an intranet. I want to just focus on the key features, or sorry, the key things we consider to be differentiators for building a SharePoint intranet that's a modern intranet. So I'm just going to drop into a few different areas now and explain that. So we've got 3 main pages here. So I'm just going to drop into learn more here. Now, straight off, what you'll see there is that we don't have an awful lot of content. Yeah, so that's not true. We have quite a lot of content on our pages, but what we don't do is have a lot of text. We don't write a lot of in-page text within here. So what we do have is lots of links to information, lots of links to tools, which people can follow up on, but we don't embed a lot of text within the pages. Again, this is something that we would always kind of recommend when we're doing our intranet designs. We've also used a lot of imagery within the intranet to keep it fresh, modern, and engaging. Now, one thing I did want to kind of pull out here to show you was how we can use a video very effectively within a SharePoint-based intranet. Now, the example I'll show you here is based on Office 365, but we can do something very similar if you've got a SharePoint on-premise environment. In Office 365, I'll show you. So, just quickly mention here, I talked before about embedding the Office 365 navigation. That's what we've done here. So this is the out-of-the-box Office 365 navigation. We do have a video channel in Office 365. Where you can, it's a video portal where we can set up a number of channels and upload our corporate videos to there. Now, one of the things we can do to make it very simple to embed video into our intranet is for any of our corporate videos which we might have on here. So, for example, we've got here a video of the Rizal Academy being opened. If I select that video, I'll just pause it when it starts just so we don't I can simply come up here, take that code, copy it, and drop it onto a SharePoint page. So it's a very simple process of coming to the video channel, uploading a video I may have. That video is then converted into a streaming format, so it's full video streaming, so it can accommodate different bandwidths, etc. for a nice user experience. I can then just simply drop the embed code like you would with a YouTube video or something like that onto a SharePoint page, and I've got embedded video. Now that functionality is slightly different if you're using on-premise SharePoint environment, but it's quite similar. And that's we don't have really any examples of using video in the original intranet, but it can make it can be quite a powerful and engaging component of the intranet for end users, and quite simple to achieve. We also talked about publishing information about people as well as content. So if I come down here, you can see that we've got a section here where we have got a staff member here, Nick Sant, who's an employee of Visual, and we're pulling through information from his SharePoint user profile and publishing it on the homepage. Now that'll rotate every week, so we can show information about different people every week. Just add a bit of a bit more information, make it a bit more interesting, a bit more engaging for our users. Now, in that same vein, if I was just to go back to our homepage, I can show you one of these SharePoint user profiles. So there's an example of a query suggestion, like I said. So I've typed in, and it says, "Are you actually looking for Michael Owen?" Yeah, I am. I get back my search results there. Just a quick, just to mention the search while we're here. Here I've got a link now to actually the user profile that's been found that matches Michael Owen. That's what we're going to have a look at in a minute. But I've also seen here in a result block, like I mentioned, some documents by Michael Owen. It's quite a prolific document writer, as you can see. We've got 914 documents here by Michael Owen. If you want to see them, just click on Show More, and it'll just show us all of those documents. And these are the refiners down the side I mentioned. So I can actually whittle down these search results here by different categories, just to make it a much more refined result set that I've got back. This isn't a particularly powerful example, because we can configure these refiners based on the type of content we get back. So I can say which refiners I want to show here to make it a much more useful component of the search results. I'll show you that when we look at our Intranet search center. Probably make more sense. So if I go into Michael Owen's profile here, I come into his profile. Some of this information is updated by Mike himself. Some of it is actually pulled from his Active Directory profile. I see an organizational chart here, which is fed by the manager properties. You can see there's a lot of information here we capture. Some of this is, we use some of the out-of-the-box fields, and we've also configured some of the additional ones ourselves as well. So you can choose entirely what information you want to capture and share about that individual, and it's all searchable as well. I can send him a message or call him or email him from here based on what I want to do. And if I want to, one of the other great features in here is Delve, like I mentioned. I can click on this activity tab here, and that will show me all of the activities Mike's been undertaking within the Office 365 environment. Now, flick into it quickly. The problem with demoing this in our live system is that I don't really have any control over what shows in that activity feed, so it's not great for a live demo on a production environment. But what it does is it shows you a tiled view of the documents Mike's been working on the emails which Mike's been sending, which may be relevant to me, any presentations which he may have shared with me. It just lets me see all of the things that have been going on in the SharePoint environment, which may be relevant to me. So it's a really useful, powerful tool, which is just available out the box as a component of Office 365. Now, if I just jump back to our intranet, if I jump into our Do More page, you'll see very similar again. Not a huge amount of. So I'm just going to check this. See this. So I just want to check and see whether there are any issues with the audio. So we've now come back to one of the intranet pages. Very similar, visual, lots of uses of icons, not heavy on text. But I just want to show you here about the personalization aspects. So you'll see the top of this page is actually tailored very much to me. So I can see here a list of the customers that I have chosen to follow. So these are actually These are actually our customer collaboration sites that we store our customer information in SharePoint. The project sites, which I'm currently working on, that I've chosen to follow. The documents in SharePoint that I've chosen to follow that I want to get quick access to. And also the ones that I've been working on recently as well, in case I need to get to those. And finally, we've got a section here on the side which is aggregating all of the tasks which I've got which are outstanding. So there I've got, that's the whole section of the intranet is tailored to me and tailored mainly to the information I've chosen to follow and the tasks that are just, I've not chosen to follow those tasks, but there's something that's important to me that I need to be able to see. I'll show you later on how the following works in SharePoint. It's just a simple click when you want to choose to follow things. One of the other ways which we manage this, which I mentioned before, is the use of a flyout panel. So we actually have a flyout panel in our intranet. We use it for navigation, so I'll show you here. So this little flyout panel here lets us jump around the different sections of our intranet. But the way we've seen this work in other projects is actually we can use that panel to show your own personal links to intranet content in there. So again, just another way of presenting that personalized content in a flyout rather than embedding it on a page. Okay, so let me just use that actually to jump back to our Learn More page. Now, you probably noticed these Yammer feeds when we visit this page earlier. So you can see here, we've got our company Yammer feed here, which is being pulled through from our Yammer environment. We've also got a social Yammer feed here, and we've got a Freebase Yammer feed here as well. So, I mean, we have loads and loads of Yammer groups within Visual, but we've selected a few which are specific for the intranet, created those groups, and then we're using some simple code, which you drop on the page, which pulls that information or that functionality through to the intranet. And it's fantastic. So rather than having to have pages of news content, for example, or some specific announcements functionality built into the intranet, we're using Yammer to do that instead, and it's just there and it's just available. Now, if you're not using Yammer, you can do something similar with SharePoint news feeds, but Microsoft's strategic approach now is to actually use Yammer for all of their social functionality. So there is an additional license cost with that if you're not already have it covered with your Office 365 subscription. But like I say, you can actually still use SharePoint news feeds if need be, and it's very simple. I can come in here and I can come down here and I can reply quite easily to a conversation in here, and I can also, as you can see, I can like as well if I need to. So liking and replying are really the things I can do with it. It's an embedded Yammer feed within an intranet page. If I do need to, I can go into, for example, the full conversation. Let me just come down here, open this one up. So if I click here, I can simply and quickly launch the full Yammer client from here if I need to do any more complex sort of actions within Yammer. Some of you may already be using Yammer, some may not. I'm not going to go into the Yammer functionality at the moment. It's a different webinar, different area for discussion. But it's very easy to launch the full client if I need to from within that embedded feed. Now, if I just want to show you one more thing as well, a couple more things actually. So we talked about simplifying content, so making it easier for people to add content to the intranet. So one thing was standardized page templates that have a number of just set fields that people can add content to. Another was to use just simple SharePoint lists to add content to, which then gets branded and added to the pages without the content editor having to worry about how that's going to look. So just to show you an example of here, I mean, most of the content you can see on this page is driven in that way. Come down here, we've got a little secret click button here that lets content editors come in and add content. Now, if I go into the site contents for this page, for the whole intranet actually, to give you an example, if I go to the operations announcements list, click on that, very standard SharePoint list, number of entries in there. If I click on Add New Announcement in here, you can see that that's very straightforward and very easy for a content editor to add information in. All they have to do is add a title, some plain text in here, an expiry date to that announcement, and then tag it with the relevant operations department. Now that's all that person has to do. Then when they save that, next time the search crawl runs, because we actually use SharePoint search to surface a lot of the information in our intranet. What you can do is SharePoint search, as well as being a traditional search tool where a user you use it in a way whereby somebody types in a query and you present them with results. SharePoint search actually is also a very powerful tool for aggregating content and presenting content in pages in an intranet environment as well. So basically all you're doing is you're telling a SharePoint search results web part what you're looking for, and then dropping that in the page and then branding that up how you want it to look. So the user isn't typing anything in, they're just being shown the information that you've told it to go and look for. So next time our search crawl runs, it'll find this announcement and it'll present it on the page, and we'll control how it looks through the branding. The content editor doesn't have to worry about that. If I go to our team site, I talked as well about being able to publish directly from your collaboration sites, another nice feature of SharePoint. So in here I can see all of the sites that I'm following. So if I go to the business productivity team site, this is our collaboration site. So this isn't intranet, this is a separate collaboration site we just use as our team. But if I was to go into a document library, for example, and I take a document, I'll take that for example. Now, if I need to share that with the rest of the business, so I have to take a step back, just explain the context of this is that, so as part of any intranet project, we would recommend, unless there's a good reason not to, that part of that intranet, as part of that intranet, there is a centralized document center that contains all published and shared corporate documentation in a central place, but it's categorized and presented in a very usable way. So rather than people come to team sites to find documents that are shared with the rest of the business, they're all sent to a central area within the intranet. So I may create a document within my team site, which I then think, wait, this is good, this needs to be shared with the rest of the business, I need to send this to the intranet. So to be able to do that, I just simply highlight the document within my team site. I can go to the SharePoint send to command, and I have a pre-configured option to send it to the intranet document center. I click that. Try that one again. There. I click that. I'm not going to do it, but it doesn't just prompt to say, are you sure? I click OK, and it just takes a copy of that and moves it to the document center. Now the key thing here is you want to make sure you've captured the right metadata on that document to make sure that when it hits the document center, it gets shown up in the right places, under the right links, when somebody goes to access, when somebody goes to find it within the document center. So I hope that made sense. If I just go to the document center, actually, last thing we'll look at, back to sites, go to our document center. So this is our Intranet document center. We do have links to this document center, specific documents within here, and specific categories of documents within document center directly from the intranet pages. But people can also come directly to the document center and then find the information they want directly from here. We've got our documents split between our different corporate departments, our different practices, and we've also got our most popular documents. So again, nice little feature, just like the box in SharePoint is, we can look at how many times the document's been viewed. we can then aggregate those documents together using search and present them on a page and sort them by the number of views. So very quickly and easily we can have a dynamic list of the most popular documents. We don't have to do anything with that now. That will just constantly update itself based on how many times each different type of document, sorry, each individual document is being viewed within the document center. We're using a simple tick box as part of the document metadata to say whether it's a spotlight document. If that tick box is ticked, then show it on the intranet homepage. And we're going to limit that to 4 or 5 documents which are particularly relevant at the time, and we want to flag to people when they come to the document center. Now, I mentioned before, so if you imagine that I've sent that document from the team site using that send to command to the document center, what will happen is it'll hit the document center, and then based on the metadata of that document, which has already been applied within the team site, it's then routed to the appropriate document repository within the document center. So because it came from the business productivity team site, it will have landed in the business productivity document repository here, and I would be able to view it within here. Now, I didn't send it, so obviously you're not going to be able to see it because I didn't complete the command, but if you just see it, just last thing I want to show you is that, again, a great use of search is when I click on that tile for business productivity, rather than taking somebody to a document library view, which you may be familiar with if you're already using SharePoint, we're actually taking them to a search result page, which we can format however we want, but it just gives it's just a nicer user experience, a nice way to present the content. So from here, you can see all of the different documents which have been shared with the business by business productivity. I can, if I want to, I can go and preview those using the Office Web App functionality. I can further refine the documents here using those refiners, and this is where you'll see it's a much more effective use of refiners. I can choose which technology I want to refine the documents by, which of our practice propositions I want to refine by. So, we're talking about Intranet evolution. Let's just click on that. I click on that refiner. Ooh. You can see it's now whittled down all those documents, just the 2 now which are relevant to our Intranet evolution proposition. I can refine by subject area, technology. You get the idea. So that's how we use a corporate document center as well. And like I say, these documents can either be accessed by coming directly to the document center, or we can reference them directly by embedding links or by surfacing them using the search capabilities within the intranet pages themselves. So if I stop presenting my screen now, that's the demonstration done. If I just bring the presentation back. Oh, seems to lost the presentation. Grace, have you able to bring that back up again?
I'll just upload it for you now, Alex.
Oh, sorry, we must have lost that when we were.
It's just loading now. Hopefully, everyone should be able to see that's just coming up.
Thanks. So there was a lot to get through there in that demo. So sorry if it was quite rapid to go through it all. Yeah, like I said, there was quite a bit to get through. But what I want to cover off just in these last couple of slides was just really how we can go through this in a bit more detail with you and talk about what it means to you and your organization. Sync.
Okay, I can see the slides now, Alex.
Just, sorry, gone a bit too quick there. So if you did want to follow up on what you've seen in this webinar, then we can come and see you for what we call pre-sales meeting. So we can come and see you for an hour or two. We can do an on-site demonstration of our intranet, of other intranets, talk around some of the functionality that that you've seen today, and actually talk more specifically about what it means and how it might relate to what you want to achieve as an organization. And on the back of that, we could actually provide you with an agenda and proposal for a design phase for an intranet, and at the same time provide you with a rough order of magnitude or a ROM for the overall cost, so an estimate for delivering an intranet based on your requirements. If you then did decide to take that further, then we could move through to a design and planning phase. So again, this slide just is really used to highlight the key stages of one of our design and planning engagements when we're doing an intranet project. So we would work with you to identify your key user groups and the common tasks that they would need to complete via the intranet. We often develop some personas around that. Do some requirements workshops, knowledge sharing workshops to come up with the key requirements, start to design the solution. We create a high-level design. We create a low-level design. We would then develop a proof of concept. So there would be some smoke and mirrors, some mock-ups in there, but we would develop quickly put together a mocked-up proof of concept intranet that lets users get a feel for what's been proposed in the design to make sure we're all aligned and we are actually understanding the requirements the same, and then review that feedback from the proof of concept environment that we've developed for you and finalize the designs. Now after that, it's a case of moving through to the final build and the handover and so on. But just wanted to give you an overview of what the design and planning engagement around this sort of an engagement would look like. Now I know we're pretty much up to 11, but if anybody does have any questions, now I'd be happy to go through them.
Yeah, if anyone wants to, if anyone's not able to get into IM, you can always email inquiries to Visual as well, and we'll pick them up from there.
I'll give it a couple of minutes just in case anybody has got any questions. So I should say, I think everybody's on mute anyway. So if you want, if you have a question, stick it in the.
May have just unmuted everyone.
All right, okay. Or type if you got a question, you can type it in the IM window.
Everyone has been taken off mute now, so anyone can shout out if they have any questions.
Daniel's just asked whether you can use a hybrid solution and how effective that would be. So you can have hybrid SharePoint environments. As to how effective they would be or how worthwhile they would be in terms of an intranet deployment, I'm not really sure, because the extent of hybrid at the moment is really you can show SharePoint Online search results in a SharePoint on-premise environment and vice versa. You can show you can show on-premise line of business data within a SharePoint Online environment, and you can embed Office 365 video in a SharePoint on-premise solution. So they're really, in terms of a SharePoint hybrid environment, they would be the three main areas, but the three things you can achieve. So I'm not sure really. Maybe the video would be useful, but apart from that, I'm not sure how much of the hybrid functionality would be useful for an intranet deployment. So Daniel's asked as well, what's the recommendation regarding integration of shared file access and the intranet? So I assume, Daniel, by that you mean using content from file shares within the intranet? I'm not sure.
Can I explain probably?
Yeah, of course.
Best actually is coming onto my mind.
That's easier, isn't it?
Yes, it is. No, I guess what I'm trying to get at is we have your traditional file shared system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, if we move on to Office 365, that is going to be in the cloud. So I'm assuming that there's going to be some integration between or with your file sort of shared as opposed to your intranet documents that you have, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
So within intranet, you may have your own sort of documents, but we do have a shared file sort of structure. And I presume if we move to Office 365, we're going to replicate that onto the cloud. And I'm just trying to figure out if we're going to have the same platform in terms of the SharePoint within the intranet, or is it going to be a separate, even though it's going to be SharePoint is going to be the platform, is it going to be a different sort of system from the intranet, or is it going to be integrated?
So the file share that you're talking about, is that a file share that's used to store shared corporate documents, the sorts of documents you'd want
exactly. So like you have departmental sort of shared folders,
okay.
and which we use within our traditional file system on the server, if you know what I mean. And I guess this is something that we will obviously migrate if we decide to go to Office 365. So I think the idea is that are we going to, because currently as we speak in, some of our file system is just a link to our intranet, but it's not actually integrated fully, if it makes sense. So you don't actually go through the intranet to access any shared, files that departments actually use for their work. Okay. So intranet is mainly used just for informational purposes, if you know what I mean. So I'm just finding out if there's some sort of integration there, which will make it easier to actually bring it and merge it together.
I think there is, yeah. So it kind of comes back to the information architecture piece I mentioned right at the start about how important that is. So if you have one file share, a number of file shares, the first thing you probably want to do is think about which documents were only relevant for a particular department and which documents were relevant for the rest of the business as well. And as part of your migration, you would. So let's assume you're going to have SharePoint Intranet and SharePoint team sites, like I showed. Some of your file share content would go into the team sites if it's just relevant for the individual teams themselves, and the other content would go into the intranet if it's relevant for the rest of the business. And as you do that migration, you would either take it in the structure it's already in, if you were quite happy with that, and possibly apply metadata that replicates that structure of folders as you move it into the intranet and into the team shares, or you could take the opportunity to actually reorganize the content and do more of an information architecture exercise as part of the migration. And then what you would end up with in SharePoint Online or Office 365 is a SharePoint site which runs as your intranet, which also provides access to all your shared which also provide access to all the documents which are shared across the business, which you would put in your document center. And then you would also have a number of team sites which contain all the files you've migrated from your file shares, which are only relevant to the individual teams. Don't know if did that make sense, and was that actually what you were asking?
That's right. Sorry.
Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
It did. Sorry. Yeah, I had my mute off. It did. It did answer the question. That's
okay.
Right.
Good. If anybody else has got any questions, feel free just to ask them rather than typing in the window. Give it another minute or so.
Well, if no one is asking, can I ask one more question if you don't mind?
Of course you can.
How secure is it what you call Delve?
Delve.
Yeah. How secure is that?
So,
in terms of sharing of documents, I'm assuming that you have control of what is shared and what is not seen, what is in public domain and what is not. So
it's a bit of a yes and no. So yes, you do. So it's as secure as SharePoint Search, and it's as secure as SharePoint itself because it's security trimmed based on based on SharePoint permissions. That's for the SharePoint content. So if I don't have permission to see something in the SharePoint environment, it will not show up in Delve for me.
Right.
But I will caveat that to say you can't control. There's not really much configuration you can do to say don't show this type of content in Delve. It will just aggregate content and show content that people have permission to see. So you do have to make sure your permissions, you have to be on top of your permissions to make sure the stuff not showing up that people shouldn't be seeing. But I mean, you should be doing that anyway because they can find it through search in a similar way. So it is secure, but there's not a lot of configuration options around Delve that let you control the types of content that show up there. The same for email as well. You won't see anything. You won't see any email content in there which wasn't shared with you which you weren't copied into in the original email. So yeah, it's secure, but you need to make sure you need to make sure you're managing your security in the different applications correctly as well.
Great, thank you.
No problems.
Okay, Alex,
Okay,
I'm just conscious of time because
Yep.
we're supposed to finish at 11 and people
No
have got
problems.
other meetings to go to. We probably should call it quits unless anyone's got any more questions. No.
Okay. Well, listen. Thanks very much for that. And if anybody does want to contact us and to follow up on this, then please feel free to contact us, and we'll get back in touch and arrange a follow-on meeting. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye.